The great chamber floated among the stars above the planet Valurus Prime. It was a place of power, a place where the 12 oldest species in the galaxy met to decide the fate of younger races. They called themselves the Galactic Council, and for 50,000 years, they had ruled this part of the universe without challenge. Today, the Council was angry. High Arbiters Orvan sat on his throne of living crystal. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His gray skin was covered in the marks of age, and his four eyes had seen empires rise and fall. But he had never seen anything like this. Read it again. He commanded. Ambassador Thalvine of the Kirathi Dominion stood in the center of the chamber. He was a tall creature with green scales and long antennae that twitched with nervousness. In his hands, he held a single piece of paper. "The humans have responded to our offer of integration," Thalvine said. His voice echoed in the vast chamber. "Their response is brief. Read it." Thalvine looked down at the paper. On it was printed a single word, repeated 117 times in different languages. Every human language that existed. "No," Thalvine read. "That is their complete response. Just the word no in every language they speak." The chamber erupted in noise. The 12 council species spoke over each other, their voices mixing into a storm of outrage and disbelief. Some laughed, some shouted, some simply stared in confusion. Zorvan raised one ancient hand, and silence fell. "In 50,000 years," he said slowly, "no species has ever refused integration. Not once. The Velith submitted. The Krath submitted. The Yunari submitted. Even the proud Methodari, who fought us for a century, eventually understood their place." He leaned forward on his throne. "And now these humans, these children, who have been in space for barely 200 years, dare to say no." Councillor Yethmora of the Methodari spoke up. Her people were warriors, tall and strong, with skin like stone. "Perhaps they do not understand what integration means, High Arbiter. Perhaps they think they have a choice. Then we must teach them," said another voice. This was Admiral Ketharin of the Kirathi. He was not a council member, but he commanded the largest fleet in the unified armada. "Send me to their system. Let me show them what happens to species who refuse the council's kindness." Zorvan considered this. The humans were a strange species. They had appeared seemingly from nowhere, crawling out of their small planet called Earth to spread across their star system. The council had watched them for decades, waiting for the right moment to make contact. The scouts had reported that humanity was weak. They had a few small ships, some mining operations on moons and asteroids, nothing that could challenge even a minor council fleet. "What forces do they have?" Zorvan asked. Admiral Ketharin checked his data tablet. "Their military is minimal, High Arbiter. Our latest reports show approximately 30 patrol vessels, a few armed transports, perhaps 50 mining ships that could be converted for combat. Nothing larger than what we would call a light frigate. And their planet, heavily populated, 10 billion inhabitants, but no orbital defense platforms, no planetary shields. They are completely exposed." Zorvan nodded slowly. This was how it always went. Young species were always confident at first. They believed their small achievements made them special. They did not understand that the galaxy was old and vast, and that true power came only through submission to those who had come before. "Very well," the High Arbiter said. "Admiral Ketharin, you will take a unified fleet to the human system. 400 vessels should be sufficient." 400? Councillor Yethmora seemed surprised. "For 30 patrol ships? That seems excessive." "It is not about victory," Zorvan explained. "It is about impression. When the humans see 400 warships above their world, they will understand that resistance is pointless. They will beg to accept our terms." Ketharin bowed his head. "It will be done, High Arbiter. We will depart within the cycle." As the council members began to leave the chamber, Ambassador Thalvine remained behind. He approached Zorvan's throne carefully. "High Arbiter," he said quietly, "there is something that troubles me. Speak. Our long-range probes in the human system. They stopped transmitting 3 cycles ago. All of them. At the same time." Zorvan waved a dismissive hand. "Equipment failure. Solar radiation. These things happen, all of them, simultaneously." The High Arbiters for eyes focused on the ambassador. "What are you suggesting?" Thalvine hesitated. I am suggesting nothing, High Arbiter. I am merely curious. The humans knew we were watching them. And then, suddenly, we could not watch them anymore. You think they destroyed our probes? I think we should consider the possibility that we do not know as much about humanity as we believe. Zorvan was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed a dry, crackling sound. You worry too much, Ambassador. The humans are clever, I grant you that. Perhaps they did find our probes. Perhaps they did destroy them. But cleverness is not power. A small creature may hide from a predator for a time, but eventually it must be caught. He rose from his throne, his ancient bones creaking. Send the fleet. In one cycle, the humans will be integrated, and we will never speak of their foolish resistance again. Thalvin bowed and left the chamber. But as he walked through the corridors of the orbital sanctuary, he could not shake his feeling of unease. The humans had been spacefaring for 200 years. In that time, they had spread across their entire system. They had built colonies on harsh worlds. They had survived conditions that would have killed other species. And they had said no, not we need time to consider, not we wish to negotiate, not we surrender but ask for mercy, just no. In Thalvin's experience, species only said no when they believed they could back it up, when they had something to fight with, when they were not afraid. The humans were not afraid. That, more than anything, worried the ambassador, but his concerns were dismissed, and the fleet was already being assembled. 400 warships from 6 different species, the greatest show of force the Council had deployed in 1,000 years. Dreadnoughts and battlecruisers and destroyers, all painted in the colors of their respective empires, all carrying enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. They would jump to the human system. They would make their demands, and the humans would submit. That was how it had always worked. That was how it would always work. The Council had no doubt. They had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. They had crushed every rebellion, absorbed every empire, broken every species that dared to challenge them. Humanity would be no different. They were certain of this. They were wrong. The unified fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the human star system. 400 warships, arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the distant yellow sun that the humans called Sol. Admiral Kethrin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. It was a Kirathi dreadnought, 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could turn mountains into dust. He had commanded this ship for 40 years. He had conquered 11 worlds from this very bridge. Today would be his 12th report. He ordered. His second-in-command, Commander Yathara, studied her sensor displays. She was young for her position, but sharp. Her green scales were darker than most Kirathi, and her antennae were always moving, always searching. We have arrived at the designated coordinates, Admiral. The human system lies before us. Show me. The main view screen flickered to life. Kethrin saw the star Sol burning at the center of the system. Around it orbited 8 planets, plus countless moons, asteroids, and smaller bodies. According to the reports, the humans lived mainly on the 3rd planet Earth with smaller colonies on the 4th planet, and various moons, scanned for military assets. Kethrin commanded. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. Yathara worked her console. The sensors of the Eternal Judgment were the finest in the Kirathi fleet, capable of detecting a shuttle at 10 light minutes distance. The seconds passed. Yathara's antennae stopped moving. She checked her readings again. Then a 3rd time. Admiral, she said slowly, I am detecting nothing. No military vessels, no defense platforms, no orbital stations around any of their inhabited worlds. She looked up from her console. The system appears to be completely undefended. A murmur went through the bridge crew. This was unusual. Even primitive species built something to protect their home worlds. Pride demanded it. If nothing else, they are hiding, suggested Tactical Officer Vorn. He was an older Kirathi, experienced in conquest. They know they cannot win, so they have concealed their ships, perhaps in the asteroid belt or behind one of the gas giants. Kethrin nodded. This made sense. It was a common tactic among weaker species. Hide your forces and hope the enemy passes you by. Then we will find them, the Admiral declared. Signal the fleet. Formation Keth 7. We advance toward the inner planets. The fleet began to move. 400 warships, spreading out in a wide search pattern. Sensors scanning every corner of the system. They passed the outer planets, the ice giants that the humans called Neptune and Uranus. They passed the ringed world of Saturn. They passed the massive gas giant Jupiter. Nothing. The bridge had grown quiet. Something was wrong. They could all feel it. The system was too empty, too silent. Where were the human ships? Where were their defenses? Admiral, Yathara said suddenly. I am detecting an energy signature. Where? Behind Jupiter. It was hidden by the planet's mass, but we have moved far enough to get a partial reading. One of their mining stations. Vorn suggested. Yathara shook her head slowly. Her scales had gone pale, a sign of fear among the Kirathi. No, sir. The energy signature is. It is massive. Larger than anything in our records. How large? She looked at her admiral with something close to terror in her eyes. The signature is comparable to a small moon. Before Catherine could respond, an alarm shrieked through the bridge. Red lights flashed. Officers shouted reports over each other. What is happening? The admiral demanded. The Argus, sir. Yathara's voice was high with panic. Our scout vessel. It's gone. What do you mean gone? It was destroyed, Admiral. One moment it was there, the next, she gestured helplessly. Nothing, no debris, no distress signal, just nothing. Catherine felt his blood run cold. The Argus was equipped with the finest shields in the fleet. It should have been able to survive any weapon known to the Council. Did you detect the weapon that destroyed it? Yes, Admiral. A beam of concentrated energy. But the frequency, Yathara checked her readings again. The frequency is outside our sensor range. We can detect that something happened, but we cannot identify what kind of weapon was used. The bridge fell silent. Unknown weapons, unknown energy signatures. A scout ship destroyed without warning. This was not how conquests were supposed to go, Admiral. Another officer called out. Something is emerging from behind Jupiter. All eyes turned to the main view screen. What they saw would haunt them for the rest of their lives. It came around the curve of Jupiter like a dark blade cutting through space. At first, Catherine thought it must be an asteroid. No ship could be that large. But then he saw the running lights, the weapon ports, the angular lines of deliberate construction. It was a ship larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Measure it, Catherine whispered. His voice had lost all its authority. Yathara's hands trembled as she worked her console. 47 kilometers, she said. The vessel is 47 kilometers long. Impossible. The largest ships in the Council's combined fleets were 8 kilometers. The ancient wrecks of the precursors, the legendary builders who had vanished millions of years ago, had never exceeded 12 kilometers. This human ship was nearly 4 times larger than anything that had ever existed, and it was beautiful, in the way that a predator is beautiful. It was painted black, not the black of space, but a deeper black, a hungry black that seemed to swallow the light around it. Its shape was simple and brutal, a massive blade designed for one purpose, only. War. Across its bow, enormous letters spelled out words in the human language, Unscleviathan, and below that, Titan-class dreadnought. Gods preserve us, Vorn breathed. Catherine stared at the impossible vessel. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to have patrol boats and mining ships. They were not supposed to have this, Admiral, Yathara said, her voice barely above a whisper. I am reading weapon systems across the entire surface of that ship. Thousands of them. And its power core. What about its power core? It is running on contained stellar fusion. They have built a star inside that ship to power it. The Admiral's legs felt weak. He reached for his command chair to steady himself. The humans had not been hiding because they were afraid. They had been hiding because they wanted the Council to come. They had been waiting. Hail them, Catherine ordered. His voice cracked. Now. The communication officer's hands shook as he worked his console. The entire bridge crew was frozen, their eyes fixed on the view screen where the massive human vessel hung in space. Like a mountain given form, channel open. Admiral, the officer reported. Catherine straightened his uniform. He was the commander of 400 warships. He had conquered worlds. He would not show fear before primitives, This is Admiral Catherine of the Kirathi Dominion, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. We demand to speak with your commander. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the view screen changed. The image of the Leviathan was replaced by the interior of a ship's bridge. It was not what Catherine had expected. He had imagined crude technology, rough construction, the kind of ships that primitive species always built. Instead, he saw clean lines and advanced displays. He saw officers working calmly at their stations, as though a fleet of 400 warships posed no concern at all. And he saw the human who stood in the center of it all. She was female, Catherine knew. The humans had two genders, like many species. She wore a gray uniform decorated with symbols of rank. Her hair was silver, a sign of age among humans, but her eyes were sharp and clear. Admiral Catherine, she said. Her voice was calm and measured. I am Fleet Admiral Helena Vance, commanding officer of the UNSC Leviathan and humanity's Third Soul Defense Group. She paused. You have entered restricted space without authorization. State your intentions. Catherine felt a flash of anger cut through his fear. Who were these humans to demand anything? The Council had ruled for 50,000 years. You know our intentions, he said. We are here because your species rejected the Council's generous offer of integration. We are here to remind you of your place in the galaxy. I see. Admiral Vance did not seem impressed. And the ship you destroyed? The Argus? You fired upon us first. You destroyed our scout vessel without warning. Your scout vessel locked its targeting sensors on a civilian transport ship, Vance replied. That transport was carrying 600 colonists to Mars families, children. When you target our civilians, we do not send warnings, Admiral. We send consequences. Catherine opened his mouth to respond, but Vance continued. You came here because we said no. In 12,000 years of Council rule, no species has ever refused integration. You expected to find a primitive civilization with a few patrol boats. You expected to threaten us into submission. She took a step closer to the camera. You were wrong. On the view screen, the image split. One half showed Admiral Vance. The other half showed the Leviathan, and now Catherine could see it more clearly. He could see the weapon batteries that covered its hull like scales on a beast. He could see the launch bays, each one large enough to hold a Kirathi cruiser. He could see the armored plating, thick enough to withstand any weapon in the Council's arsenal. Your Council believes humanity is young, Vance said. They believe we are primitive. An easy lesson to teach. But we have been watching you for longer than you know, Admiral. We have seen how you integrate species, how you strip away their cultures, how you take their technology, how you reduce proud civilizations to servant races. Her eyes hardened. We decided, a long time ago, that this would not be our fate. Yathara gasped beside Catherine. Admiral, I'm detecting new energy signatures. 11 of them. Where? Everywhere. Throughout the system. The view screen changed again. Now it showed a map of the human solar system. The unified fleet was marked in red, a cluster of 400 dots near Jupiter. And around them, appearing from behind moons and planets and asteroid fields, 11 new contacts blazed to life. 11 more ships. 11 more Titan-class dreadnoughts. The Leviathan is not alone, Admiral Vance said. We built 12 of these ships over the past decade, in secret, using technology your Council has never seen, because we did not steal it from wreckage or buy it from traders. We invented it ourselves. Catherine felt as though the floor had dropped away beneath him. 12 Titan-class vessels. 12 ships that could each destroy his entire fleet without effort. And the humans had built them in 10 years. What else had they built? This cannot be, he whispered. No species develops this quickly. No species? Vance raised an eyebrow. Admiral, humanity went from horse-drawn carriages to landing on our moon in less than 70 years. We went from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in 90 more. We have been in space for 200 years, and in that time, we have learned more than your Council has learned in 50,000. She paused, letting her words sink in. Do you know why? Because we are not afraid to fail. We are not afraid to try new things. We are not afraid to question what we think we know. Your Council stopped innovating millennia ago. You found a system that worked, and you never changed it. You became slow, comfortable, arrogant. She gestured at the view screen. at the map showing her 12 dreadnoughts surrounding the Council fleet. And now here you are, 400 ships, the greatest force the Council has deployed in 1,000 years. And you are surrounded by 12 vessels that your combined fleet cannot even scratch. Admiral Catherine's mind raced. There had to be a way out. There had to be something he could do. But everywhere he looked, he saw only death. His fleet was caught in the open, far from any cover, surrounded by weapons that could destroy them in moments. "What do you want?" he asked finally. His voice was hollow. "What I want is very simple," Vance replied. "I want you to leave. Turn your ships around, return to your council, and tell them what you saw here today. Tell them that humanity's answer has not changed. Tell them that we will not be integrated. We will not submit. We will not bow." She leaned forward, and her calm expression gave way to something harder, something dangerous. "And tell them this, the next fleet that enters our system without permission will not be given the chance to retreat. The next time, we will not show mercy." The communication ended. The view screen returned to the image of the Leviathan, that impossible black blade hanging in space, surrounded by its 11 sisters. The bridge was silent. "Admiral," Yathara said quietly, "what are your orders?" Catherine looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, the same fear he felt in his own heart. They had come here expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had found something that defied everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The humans were not primitive, they were not weak. They were something new, something the Council had never faced before, and Catherine understood, with terrible clarity, that if he did not retreat now, he would die here. His entire fleet would die here, and it would accomplish nothing except to prove that the Council had made a terrible, terrible mistake. "Signal all ships," he said at last. His voice was barely above a whisper. "We are withdrawing from the system." No one argued. No one questioned his order. They had all seen the Leviathan. They had all understood. The unified fleet began its retreat. 400 warships turned away from the inner planets and started the long journey back to the hyperspace jump point at the edge of the system. No one spoke on any bridge. No one celebrated. They moved in silence, like children caught in a place they should not be. Admiral Catherine watched the Leviathan on his view screen. The massive vessel had not moved. It simply hung in space, its black hull absorbing the light of distant stars, watching them leave with what felt like contempt. "Admiral," Commander Yathara said quietly, "the Titan-class vessels are not pursuing." "Of course they are not," Catherine replied. "They do not need to pursue. They know we are leaving. They know we have already lost." He had never felt so small. His flagship, the Eternal Judgment, was 3 kilometers long. It was the pride of the Kirathi fleet, and next to the Leviathan, it was nothing, a toy, a joke. How did they build those ships? He wondered aloud. How did they hide them from us? Yathara shook her head. "I do not know, Admiral. Our sensors should have detected construction on that scale. Energy signatures alone should have been visible across the system, unless they wanted to hide them from us. But how? We had probes throughout their system. We had agents on their colonies. We had nothing," Catherine interrupted. "We had nothing. They showed us what they wanted us to see. Our probes, our agents, they were feeding us false information the entire time." The truth of it settled over him like a cold weight. The humans had been playing the Council from the beginning. They had pretended to be weak, pretended to be primitive, while they built an armada that could challenge the entire galaxy. And the Council had believed it. They had sent 400 ships to intimidate a species that had 12 dreadnoughts, each one larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had walked into a trap without even knowing it. The fleet continued its retreat. They passed Jupiter, then Saturn. The Titan-class vessels did not follow, but they did not need to. Their message had been delivered. It was near the orbit of Uranus when the trouble started. "Admiral." The tactical officer's voice was sharp with alarm. "3 vessels have broken formation." Catherine spun toward the view screen. 3 ships to Methadary cruisers and 1 Velith destroyer had turned away from the fleet and were accelerating back toward the inner system. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "They are charging weapons, Admiral. They appear to be on an attack course toward the nearest Titan-class vessel." "Fools." Catherine grabbed the communication console. "All ships, this is Admiral Catherine. Those vessels are to stand down immediately. Return to formation. A harsh voice crackled over the channel. This is Captain Vethran of the Methodary cruiser Stoneheart. We do not run from primitives. The Methodary have never retreated from battle, and we will not start today. Captain, you do not understand. We understand perfectly. You are a coward, Admiral, but we are warriors. We will show these humans what happens when they threaten the Council. The 3 ships pushed their engines to maximum. They were fast, these vessels built for speed and aggression. In minutes, they had closed half the distance to the nearest Titan-class dreadnought. Ketharin watched in horror. Stop them, he ordered Ythara. Signal the humans. Tell them those ships are acting against orders. Channel open, Admiral. Human vessel. This is Admiral Ketharin. The ships approaching you are not acting under my command. They have disobeyed direct orders. Please, show restraint. For a moment, there was silence. Then Fleet Admiral Vance's voice came through the speakers. Admiral Ketharin, we are aware that those vessels have broken formation. We are also aware that they have armed their weapons and are preparing to fire. Please, Ketharin said. He had never begged in his life, but he was begging now. They are fools, but they do not deserve. I am not going to destroy them, Admiral. Ketharin blinked. You are not? No, I am going to teach them a lesson instead. Watch, on the view screen. The 3 attacking ships had almost reached weapons range of the nearest Titan-class vessel. Captain Vethran S. Stoneheart was in the lead, its plasma cannons glowing with power. Then something happened that Ketharin could not explain, that the Stoneheart simply fell apart. Not exploded, fell apart. Its weapons detached from its hull. Its engines separated from its body. Its armor plating peeled away like skin from fruit. In seconds, the mighty cruiser was reduced to 1,000 floating pieces, drifting harmlessly in space. And in the center of the debris, the ship's crew compartment floated intact, protected, preserved, alive. The same thing happened to the second cruiser. Then the third, 3 warships, dismantled with surgical precision. Not destroyed, dismantled. Their crews left alive in escape pods and protected compartments. Floating in the void, we could have killed them, Admiral Vance said over the communication channel. It would have been easier, actually. But we wanted you to understand something, Admiral. Ketharin could not speak. He could only stare at the view screen. Your weapons cannot hurt us. Your shields cannot protect you. Your ships, your beautiful, expensive ships that took decades to build, we can take apart like toys. And we do not even need to be close to do it. She paused. Pick up your survivors. Take them home. Let them tell the Council what happened here today. Let them describe how easily we could have killed them and how we chose not to. Let them explain that humanity is not a species to be conquered. We are a species to be respected. The channel closed. Ketharin sat in his command chair for a long time. Around him, rescue ships launched to collect the survivors from the 3 dismantled vessels. The crews would live. They would return to their homeworlds with stories of the human ships that could destroy without killing, that could defeat without war, and those stories would spread. They would reach every corner of the galaxy. Every species would hear about what happened in the Sol system today. The Council's reputation was built on fear. For 50,000 years, they had maintained control because no one believed they could be challenged. They were the masters of the galaxy, and resistance was death. But the humans had not died. The humans had not even been hurt, and the Council's fleet had run away. Set course for Veluris Prime, Ketharin said at last. Maximum speed. The Council must know what has happened. The Eternal Judgment turned toward the hyperspace jump point. Behind it, the rest of the fleet followed, 397 ships, minus the 3 that had been taken apart like children's toys. As the stars stretched and blurred around them, Ketharin thought about what he would tell the High Arbiter. How do you explain to the rulers of the galaxy that they are no longer the most powerful force in existence? How do you tell them that everything has changed? He did not know, but he would have to find the words, because the humans had sent a message today, and someone had to deliver it. The great chamber above Veluris Prime had never been so quiet. The 12 council members sat on their thrones, frozen like statues. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the image that Admiral Ketharin had brought back from the Sol system, the Leviathan. 47 kilometers of black metal and impossible power. Floating in the void like a god of war. High Arbiter's Orvan was the first to speak. His voice was weak, empty of its usual authority. "This cannot be accurate," he said. "No species develops this quickly. Our projections showed the humans were centuries away from becoming a threat." Centuries. Admiral Catherine stood in the center of the chamber. He had not slept since returning from soul space. His scales were dull, his antennae drooping with exhaustion. But he had delivered his report, and now the council had to face the truth. "Your projections were based on the assumption that the humans wanted us to see their true capabilities," he replied. "They did not. They showed us what they wanted us to see: small ships, primitive technology, a species barely worthy of attention. But why?" Councillor Yethmora demanded. Her stone-like face was cracked with confusion. "Why hide their strength? If they had revealed these Titan-class vessels earlier, we would never have sent a fleet. We would have approached them differently. That is exactly why they hid them." Catherine turned to face her. "They wanted us to underestimate them. They wanted us to send a fleet. They wanted to demonstrate, in the clearest possible way, that the Council's military power means nothing to them." "They could have destroyed your entire force," said Ambassador Thalvine quietly. "400 ships. The greatest fleet we have deployed in 1,000 years. And they let you leave." "Yes." Catherine's voice was heavy. "They took apart 3 of our vessels piece by piece without killing a single crew member. They wanted us to know that our deaths would have been meaningless to them. They could kill us whenever they wanted. They chose not to." The chamber fell silent again. On the holographic display, the image of the Leviathan turned slowly, revealing more of its terrible beauty. High Arbiter's Orvan rose from his throne. He was ancient, older than any other being in the room, and he moved like a creature who had suddenly felt the weight of all his years. "I have ruled this council for 9,000 years, he said. "I have seen species rise and fall. I have guided our people through wars and crises and challenges that threatened our very existence. And in all that time, I have never been wrong about the nature of the galaxy." He walked to the holographic display and stared at the image of the human dreadnought. "I was wrong about humanity." The words hung in the air. No one responded. No one knew what to say. "They are not like other species," Zorvan continued. "They do not think like us. They do not fear like us. They built those ships in secret, in 10 years, using technology we have never seen. They infiltrated our intelligence networks so completely that we never knew they existed. They watched us watching them, and they let us believe what we wanted to believe." He turned to face the council. "We sent a fleet to threaten them, and they surrounded our fleet with weapons we cannot understand. We have 400 warships. They have 12 dreadnoughts that could destroy those warships without effort. And somewhere, in their system, they are probably building more." "What do we do?" asked one of the junior councillors. "Do we send a larger fleet? Do we call upon all the member species to unite against them?" "To what end?" Zorvan asked. "So they can destroy a larger fleet, so they can demonstrate their superiority even more clearly?" He shook his head. "No, we do nothing. We do not contact them. We do not provoke them. We do not send ships anywhere near their system. We wait for them to contact us, and when they do, we listen." "You mean we submit to them?" Yethmora's voice was thick with disgust. "The Methodari do not submit. We have never." "The Methodari will do as the council commands," Zorvan interrupted. His voice was sharp now, cutting through the chamber like a blade. 3 of your ships attacked the human vessel against direct orders. They were taken apart in seconds. Your warriors are brave, Councillor. But bravery means nothing against an enemy that can kill you before you even know you are in danger." Yethmora fell silent. Her stone face showed no expression, but her hands were clenched into fists. Zorvan looked around the chamber at each of the council members in turn. "We made an error," he said. "We assumed that humanity was like every other species we have encountered. We assumed they would follow the same patterns, develop at the same speed, fear the same things. We were wrong." He returned to his throne and sat down heavily. "The humans are something new, something we have never seen before. And until we understand what they are, we will treat them with respect." The council session ended shortly after. The members departed to their home worlds. carrying news of what had happened in the Sol system. Within days, the story had spread to every corner of the galaxy. Everyone knew about the human dreadnoughts, about the fleet that had retreated, about the 3 ships that had been dismantled like toys, and everyone understood what it meant. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. The Council was no longer supreme. There was a new force in the universe, and no one knew what it would do next. 6 months passed. Then, one day, a single ship appeared at the edge of the Velura system. It was small, barely 100 meters long, and it carried no weapons. It sent a simple message to the orbital sanctuary. Above Velurus Prime, this is the human diplomatic vessel Spirit of Earth. We request permission to approach and discuss terms for formal relations between humanity and the Galactic Council. The Council granted permission. Immediately, the Spirit of Earth docked at the sanctuary, and a delegation of humans came aboard. They were led by a man with gray hair and calm eyes, who introduced himself as Ambassador David Chen. "We are here to talk," he said, "not as a subject species, not as a junior partner, as equals." For the first time in 50,000 years, the Council agreed. The negotiations lasted for months. There were arguments and disagreements and moments when it seemed everything would fall apart. But in the end, an agreement was reached. Humanity would remain independent. Their territory would be respected. They would trade with the Council and share knowledge. But they would never be integrated. They had earned their place among the stars, not through submission, but through strength. And in the black depths of the Sol system, the Leviathan kept its silent watch. Its crew went about their duties, maintaining the great ship, training for battles they hoped would never come. They were the guardians of humanity's freedom, the sword that kept the galaxy at bay. Other species had reached the stars by accepting the Council's terms. They had traded their independence for safety, their culture for protection. Humanity had chosen a different path. They had walked through fire and darkness to build their own destiny. They had faced the rulers of the galaxy and refused to bow. They had proven that a young species could stand against ancient powers and win. The universe had underestimated them once. It would not make that mistake again. Far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, children looked up at the night sky and dreamed of adventures among the stars. They did not know about the battles that had been fought for their freedom. They did not know about the great ships that protected them, but they knew deep in their hearts that the universe was full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And they knew that humanity would discover them, not as servants, not as subjects, but as explorers, as pioneers, as equals. The stars belonged to everyone brave enough to reach for them, and humanity had proven it was brave enough.